Welcome to Sky Studios for our masterclass, Targeted Transmissions. It's so wonderful to see each and every one of you today. Thanks so much for coming along. We've got a jam-packed couple of hours for you. We've got speakers including our Matt Buckle from Transmission, Steve Wild, Head of Sales at Sky, as well as our guest speaker, Guy Flower, Head of Branding and Marketing at Kumon. These talks will be followed by a panel discussion with the opportunity to ask our experts any questions that come to mind, anything at all. As long as they're about TV advertising, we'll stick to TV. Our first speaker has been living in the world of TV advertising, creative, strategy and production for almost 20 years. Here to speak about relevancy in creative, please welcome Transmission Managing Director Matt Buckle.
That's me. Hello. I'm just enjoying being out in public again and my lovely suit. First corporate outing in 3 years, which is lovely. So what I wanted to talk about very briefly this morning just is a little bit of a kind of a personal story about why relevancy is important to me within advertising. And obviously we all know that the more relevant your campaign is, the more relevant, the harder it's going to work for you. But I wanted to just share a bit more about why it means so much to me. One of my oldest friends, I've known since I was 10, said to me one day, "Matt, I don't agree with what you do." Okay, what do you mean? He said, "Well, advertising just gets in the way. Advertising is something that interrupts my programming. Advertising is something that interrupts my enjoyment of content. And it just gets in the way. And you're selling me stuff I don't want. I don't agree with what you do." I thought, well, for someone that's completely not in the industry, he designs microchips. He's a very clever man. But he's obviously a viewpoint that I don't see from in the industry. I enjoy ads. I've always enjoyed ads. I have a slightly strange encyclopedic knowledge of very niche brands and old campaigns from the 80s. So what I thought was, why does he feel that way? And what I want to do is make advertising good. I want my friend Chris to go, "That was a good ad." And how do you make advertising good? Is you do it by making good advertising. And good advertising is relevant advertising. And it comes down to the messaging that you're doing, how you want to speak to people, when you want to speak to people. And that's something we're going to touch on today, is about the importance of speaking to people and putting them in pushing them along the journey that they're making to purchase that they want to make. Ultimately, I am not a salmon. I do not want to swim upstream. I want to give the right message to the right person at the right time to guide them on their journey. They already want to make this purchase. What information do I need to give to them at what point in that journey to make sure that they're moving through that funnel in the way that I want them to, and to make sure that they make that purchase? That's good advertising. As far as Chris is concerned, it's advertising that he wants to see. It's advertising that will help him get his message, get the product that he wants to make. And it all comes down to really simple message of the right message to the right people at the right time. It sounds easy when we put it like that, but we've all seen advertising campaigns where we're not talking to the right people at the right time. There is always a bit of a scattergun approach. But how can we make sure that we're being more relevant? How can we make sure we're getting the right message to the right people at the right time? And it comes down to the very old model, the AIDA model, of awareness, interest, desire, and action. There may be various versions of it that you've come across over the years. But understanding where your audience are at certain points of the process gives you an idea as to what sort of messaging you need to deliver at that point. Because all you're doing, you don't want a campaign that does everything. You won't be able to do everything in a single ad. But what you will be able to do is make sure that you're pushing people into the next point of the journey by making sure that you're delivering relevant advertising. Make sure you're delivering stuff which is going to push them onto that next level that they're at. So if we're up at that awareness phase, if you're up doing a big broad brush campaign, it's all about building familiarity. So how do we become more familiar? You've got a huge database of relevant terms, relevant language that your audience are using within your social media channels. So how can we listen to what our audience are already doing and give them the right triggers and the right messaging to make sure they're just driving down into the next bit. We don't want someone to see a TV ad. They're not immediately going to buy from you straight away. What they might do is then go onto your website. Therefore, the TV ad has done its job. It's pushed them on to the next level rather than push them straight through to sales. So what do we need to do is we need to make them familiar with that top end, with that TV advertising. If you're already a big brand, are there ways that you can enhance that familiarity, enhance that relevancy? Are there ways of targeting your campaign geolocation-wise, behaviourally-wise, in time of day, whether it's TV, whether it's radio, whether it's online? What can we do to make sure that that message is as relevant as possible? We're in an age within creative where we can be dynamic. We can serve different creative at different times of the day. It's not a case of 10 years ago where you have to lock in your TV campaign 6 months before you go to air or a year before you go to air, and then all you're doing is filming it and putting it to air. We're in a point where we can turn stuff around really quickly now and get stuff to air which is relevant. We can be topical. We can be relevant to seasons. We can be have different ads running in the morning opposed to the evening, and making sure that we're just increasing that interest, increasing that relevancy as we go through. So the importance of building that is ultimately to drive people down to that final point. It's action. You can have the best TV ad in the world. If it doesn't translate into sales, you're not going to be able to run another one because it's going to pay for your next campaign. So we need to make sure that what we're doing is just pushing people along that journey. We're not salmon. We just want to give people the right message at the right time to make sure they're doing the right thing. And what that leads into, and I'm sure any of you that have sat through one of my upside down triangle presentations before, is around hero, hub and hygiene. Understanding what your content is doing. Is it a hero? Is it a superhero like the Spider-Man outfit outside? Is it running out there and trying to attract as many people as possible? In that case, what sort of messaging do we want to do to pull people in? Not to pull the people in straight to sale, but what do we need to do to pull them into the next tier, the next part of their journey? And understanding how that relevancy of understanding who your audience are and the kind of language they use and the kind of position they are within their customer journey can make sure that we're hitting them with the right message. And ultimately, that's what we want to do. We want to make advertising good by making good advertising. I want Chris to be proud of me, and hopefully the people in this room, you feel the same way. And one day Chris will go, "You've done a good job, Matt. Thank you very much." So that's enough of me prattling. What I'm going to now talk about is the relevancy of the messaging, but we're now going to talk about how we could be more targeted within the media space. So this is the messaging. How can we actually get people into the right spot? Mr. Clemson.
Thanks, Matt. Some great insights there. And now, our next speaker has been instrumental in the creation and evolution of Sky AdSmart since its inception, from his time in business development as this unique digital addressable platform got off the ground, followed by his role as controller of AdSmart. He's literally the font of all knowledge when it comes to targeted marketing. So please welcome Sky AdSmart Head of Sales, Steve Wild.
Wow, that's quite an introduction, but thanks. I'll try and live up to that, and also try and keep you awake in possibly the most comfortable seats in the cinema you'll sit in for a while. My name's Steve Wild, and Head of Sales of Sky, focused on AdSmart, our addressable and digital platforms. I'd really like to help you understand what AdSmart can do for you on your advertising journey. But first, let me grab a couple of minutes just to give you a bit of an update on what Sky are doing. Sky, at the moment, are leading media brand, entertainment brand in Europe. Everybody in Europe has access to Sky content. We have 7 million customers paying us for access to content. So some can get it for free, but you can pay us to get it. We've got 24 million customers, £7 billion spent on content, which is more than Netflix globally, and a huge amount of employees, a lot of which you've seen walking into the office today. Sky is built on some fundamentals, and that is about content. We've got content across all different genres. There's many programs there, and there's many channels there that you will be familiar with if you're a Sky or a Virgin customer, and even if you're not, because you can access it on TV as well as on digital. And we've got loads of award-winning programming, and that's fundamental to our success. And also the things that we're doing, like building the new Elstree studios, is going to take us to another level globally from a content perspective. Fundamentally, our purpose is all around making sure that we deliver better content that engages people, that it's innovative, and it gives us an opportunity to connect with customers, which to you as advertisers means that we've got something of value to you to be able to engage with customers that we have. We've gone beyond just content. We've gone in the last year or so, or just short of a year now, to developing our tech product in TV, which is Sky Glass. Sky Glass doesn't require a satellite dish anymore. It's all about streaming content. It's across all the platforms that we work with, and that includes Netflix, Amazon, Disney, etc. And the really interesting thing that Sky has done for the business is over half of those that have bought Sky, and we've run out of Sky Glass twice already in the first 6 months. It's the UK. UK is the global launch of Sky Glass, and we're just rolling it into Italy and other parts of Europe currently. Over half of the customers of Sky Glass are buying 65-inch TVs. So TV is what people want. I know during lockdown everybody watched a lot more TV, but it's not going away. So it's a real rubber stamp to say TV is still where it's at for programming, content, and advertisers. And the other thing is that over half of the customers are new to Sky, so it's great. It's building our customer base, which means you've got more customers and audience to target. To dispel the myth of people don't watch telly anymore, and I've sat in the room, a number of digital agencies who said, yeah, it's all about digital. If you've got video, put it on digital. Yes, of course, people are using digital. They're consuming media across all different platforms, but TV hasn't gone away. As this shows here, the sort of total bar at the end has no different. In fact, the audience is now higher from a TV perspective than it was 10 years ago, before a lot of the bigger players in the digital space came into the market. The fact is live TV has gone down, but because people now have the opportunity to select their own broadcast, their own TV playback, recordings, as well as box sets, TV viewing is still as high as it ever was. But from an advertiser perspective, what's really important for you is those big orange bars. On the left-hand side, for all individuals, 87% of all people's viewing time of TV, of video advertising, so that's your short form ad in and around a YouTube clip, as well as a TV ad and a TV break. 87% of all people's average video advertising day is on TV. On the right-hand side, it's still 2/3 of their viewing of video advertising if you're 16 to 34. And that's no different. 16 to 34 has never watched as much telly as the average. But things haven't changed. TV is still the place to go. If you've got a video ad, or you're going to create a video ad, you need to put it on TV. Excuse me. So what we've done at Sky is not develop just loads of content, loads of channels, lots of TV opportunities for you to advertise in, but we've created something that is unique globally, which is AdSmart. It gives you the opportunity, whether you're global or local, whether you're advertising a national product or a niche product in a certain area, or whether you're online focused or whether you're selling through stores. AdSmart is the answer, we believe. AdSmart is the combination of best of digital, which is highly targeted, very trackable, very responsive, along with the best of TV. And because we've got access to the set-top boxes that people have in a Sky home and a Virgin home, we are the only people that can do addressable TV. There are others that do addressable, but it's not TV. There are others that do targeted TV, but it's not very addressable. The only solution, because of the set-top box, is AdSmart. So let me tell you a little bit more about it. In the last 7 years, we've worked with 3,000 advertisers. 75% of those have never been on TV before. And what they do is generally block out their advertising, as Matt was saying, from 85% of the audience that is available, just to target the 15% of the audience that is relevant to them. When we work with McLaren and Princess Yachts, that's just 1% of the audience that's available, because that's all they're interested in. It's about relevancy, it's about targeting the right audiences. And because of that, we work now with 75% of the top 100 advertisers on TV. So it's not just for new, it's not just for small advertisers or niche advertisers, where you can start with a $3,000 budget to get on TV, which is phenomenal. But it's also there for other advertisers as well. It's there for everybody. And the great thing is that we've got so many great case studies that over 70% of all the brands that use AdSmart repeat and scale up. I should have bought some water. So AdSmart is built on 4 pillars. Firstly, the scale. We can reach over 10 million homes in AdSmart world across the UK, and that's through Sky and through Virgin households. Through the content, which I'll play you a short show reel, because you don't get out of Sky without seeing some of our programmes. And then around the data, and data is all important. It's an overused term perhaps in media, but we've got so many data partners as well as our own data of our customers that we can target in a way that no other media company can do, certainly not on TV. And then technology allows us to be a digital player in the TV world by delivering one impression at a time to a household that you want to reach, and when they've chosen to watch the programmes that they want to watch. So it really ticks the boxes for what Matt was talking about just now. So how does it work? Literally, the set-top box is the dynamic ad server. The data of each household is stored on their set-top box, and that's from a multiple array of data partners that we have, including Experian and 20CI for people who are moving home. So we know who's in the household, we know what the household profile looks like, we know which ads are therefore then relevant to put onto that household's set-top box, and then we choose to put the ads in there and play them out when that household is watching. We don't serve between 12 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock in the morning because we don't think it's best time for your ad to be positioned in front of the customer and the viewer. But ultimately, the box plays out programmatically to deliver a campaign. And a campaign generally is 6 to 7 times frequency across a 6-week campaign. Literally, if you're seeing an ad 1 to 1.5 times on average across a campaign for a period of time, that is optimal for you to get the effectiveness that you want from a TV campaign. You don't have to see the ad every break just because you happen to be watching telly. 1 a week is enough. And that's what we've found across all of the clients that we've worked with. So literally, we play the ad out seamlessly. You don't know that if we were all in the same street and we were all watching the same programme, but only some of us had kids who were the age of 15 to 17 who might be considering going to university, only those households would see an ad from the university wanting to reach them. Everybody else would see the normal linear Tesco ad that everybody else sees because that's the linear schedule programme and ad that goes with it. But because you're of a certain type and a certain profile and a certain geography, we serve an ad into your household. That 30-second ad literally superimposes over the 30-second ad that everybody else sees. You don't know any different, apart from the fact that it's more relevant, and that's the key to what Matt was saying. So just to explain that, you've got 2 households here, one on the left-hand side. They're home movers, they're pending house move. Well, through 20CI, we can target those households. And the household on the right are an affluent family with kids. They're both watching the same programme. Flash plays out, come into an ad break, and they both see a different ad. And they don't realise at all, other than the fact they're watching an ad that's more relevant. So it's kind of clever, really. It's not scary. It's clever because it's relevant. So we're often asked, how many channels is that possible to do AdSmart on? It's over 140 channels. It's all of the Sky channels, it's all of the partner channels, the channels like Channel 5 and Viacom that we represent, but also National Geographic and others that have said, yes, we'd like a share of this market, please. So to the exclusion of ITV and Channel 4, to be fair, the fact is, in a multi-channel home, you can reach 95 to 100% of all households that view anyway without ITV and Channel 4 across a month. So that's why we build a campaign across 4 to 6 weeks, because we can reach that many households often enough. As I said, we can never let you out of the room without seeing some of the content. The key point here, as you watch this short show reel, is that if you're advertising on AdSmart, your ad has got as much opportunity of appearing in these programmes than any other advertiser we work with at Sky.
You need to be here to feel alive. You need that feeling you get when you see what no one else can.
You're ready for this. I'm ready.
Showtime.
Anything you want, you got it, 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 got it, got it, got it.
This is lovely.
Welcome to the club.
I should ask, hands up, how many of you are Sky or Virgin customers? Wow, amazing. That's brilliant. For those of you who aren't, in fact, for those of you that are, Sasha can actually organise a friends and family option. So you may find that even if you're an existing customer, you might get a better deal. And if you're not an existing customer, you need to. That's the kind of programming you see. That's the kind of programming your ads will end up in on AdSmart. So how do we do it? There's two areas really. One is how we do it socio-demographically, and the targeting partners, along with our own proprietary data, as in the people that buy customers that are customers of ours buying broadband, TV, mobile, and other services that Sky provide. We know a lot of information about them. Once they sign up, we then know their IP address. So that's how we can do digital targeting around the same households, knowing what their actual address is. But in terms of other data partners that we work with, Experian, along with other partners, are how we profile your audiences, how we target the audiences, and how we really drill down and hone into the audiences that you want to target. So whether that's 20CI for Sky, for household movers, or whether it's MasterCard, depending on how people are spending their money and when, is it around Valentine's Day or Christmas or luxury products, whether it's Nectar through Sainsbury's or Tesco's for dunnhumby, you can target people and the brands that are on the shelf and target the competitor set and get reports back, understanding how your brand compared to the competitor set that you're advertising against. Huge amounts of data. There isn't anywhere else. And part of the reason why Comcast bought Sky was to do this the way we do, because they don't even do it this way in the States. So we're kind of leading the world globally. So you're kind of, I guess, privileged that you can do it in the UK in a way that nowhere else can. In terms of targeting, broadly, we'd say there's 10 different socio-demographics that you can target. Experian, but if you prefer to use Acorn, then we can also use Acorn as well. We can target business owners, because funnily enough, business owners, all of you, still watch TV, and we can target you. So it's relevant to everybody, whether it's technology adoption, whether it's category-based, whether it's home movers, vehicle owners. There's loads of different ways, 2,000 different attributes that you can select to build your socio-demographics, to which we can overlay your geographic focus as well. Whether that's TV region, met area, or local authority, or postcodes, drilling down to the full postcode if you want to do a custom-focused campaign, or we can draw a radius of 5 miles from your store, or 10-minute drive from your store, or we can create a box that covers the exact area that you want to target. So once you've added those together, that's where we end out generally getting to 15 to 20% of the available audience. And the great thing is, and this is where we set ourselves apart from the very first go, we only count an impression if you've seen 75% of it, of the ad. So for a 30-second ad, which is what we recommend, because most ads are 30 seconds long, unless you've seen 22 seconds of the ad, it doesn't count. If you fast forward, it doesn't count. And that's always a question we get back from customers and clients. Yeah, but everybody fast forwards, so what about the ads? They're not going to work. It doesn't matter. We don't count them. So you know with confidence that unless you've seen 22 seconds of a 30-second ad and more, it won't count. And if you have seen that much, then you are likely to see all of it anyway. So compared to the, I don't know, we don't knock other brands, but compared to YouTube, with you 3 seconds in and you can skip to the content you went for, how much messaging can you go over in 3 seconds, which is probably pixelating still without any sound, around a cat video? This is all about trusted brand content on TV, on a big screen, that we know people are watching. And we report it in that way, just like you would expect from a digital brand. We help you plan, and then we help report. We show you how many impressions delivered, what time of day, what kind of programs. We can compare different copy in different areas. And we can show you how much reach we achieve and how much frequency we achieve. But it's not just that. It's not just about kind of taking your media money and saying, hope it works. In the last few years, we've introduced quite a lot of effectiveness measurement reporting, which helps you and us evidence that the campaign works. So whether that's a brand evaluation, which measures the message, compares your brand profile to your competitor set, or whether it's web attribution. So if your business is focused on the web, and we under a data share agreement can put some tags onto your website at various places. It may be the homepage, it may be the order page, it may be the basket page. We can then track the households that we know that we've served the ads to and see how they compare in their response to those people that just end up on the website without having seen the ad. And there's some phenomenal case studies, and that's why we've got so much repeat business. But if you're not web focused, or even if you are web focused, we can also do sales attribution. So at the end of a campaign, you give us under data share agreement, obviously, all of the customer data, top line and bottom line, from the first day of the campaign until maybe a month, 2 or 3 months after the campaign finishes. And we track that back and match up and say, these are the households we know we served the ad to, and these are the households that became customers. That's great. So you can tick the box and say, I know TV worked. They may not have gone straight to your shop or your store. They might have gone via Google, but that's fine. That's not a problem. We know that TV can play the part. If they've seen the ad, at some point they've ended up become a customer, we can track that back. We can also measure how those new customers or existing customers, if they've come back to purchase again, and you can compare the two. And we can also measure what their profile is so that you can get the profiling and targeting better, even better the next time. So amazing amount of reporting, and we've got loads of case studies that we can share with you depending on what your sector is. But I think that really shows that we're part of the journey, not just about saying, buy some media, I hope it works. We know it works. 14% of people are more likely to talk about an ad if it's relevant. 10% have a higher recall because it's engaging and relevant. And it's all about purchase likelihood. Yes, TV is fantastic for branding, but also for sales as well. And we know that new to TV brands have a 20% higher purchase likelihood if it's targeted in the right way. I won't, for the sake of time, go through much detail on the other products, but from a supporting point of view, hopefully you now know a lot more about AdSmart. Sky have digital and addressable products, so digital as in clickable products, where we can serve the same ads to the same households in the digital space, knowing that they've seen the ad on TV. So it's just kind of an extra bit of frequency in the clickable space. So that's well worth considering as a supplement once you get to certain budget levels. But we also have huge view-through rates where we only count an ad in digital world if you've seen the whole ad. So if you skip 1 second away from the 30 seconds of the ad, it doesn't count. So we've made it 100% view-through rate, which again is pretty much unique in the digital space. So we've got advanced. We're in all of the platforms you would expect: linear TV, on demand, as well as digital. Viewing on demand, video on demand, which is where people choose their own box sets and they watch and probably binge watch a whole box set in one evening or 2 evenings. You've got really high attention and engagement levels, higher than you would expect from normal TV. We know that life is happening in the digital space, and that's not a problem. We're now the third biggest mobile provider in the country from a network point of view. So we know a huge amount about that, and we can also serve ads to the relevant audiences. We call Sky Advance our clever ability to be able to target people in the digital space that we know we've served ads to in the AdSmart space. And then short form VOD, which is short form programming. It might be the clips of the game last night or the interview with Klopp last night. And that goes out to anybody. You don't have to be a Sky customer in the digital world. And you can buy a exclusive one ad per 3 breaks, pieces of content that people see. And that, again, is in the digital space, and it's clickable. So there's multiple opportunities to reach people in what we know is a very mixed media mindset that the consumer has. It's all about how much you can share with us in terms of how much we know about your brand, your profiling, your audience. We build a campaign, we execute the campaign, we deliver the campaign. And that, briefly, is the power of TV enhanced with AdSmart. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. And now, our next speaker has had experience of it all. From actually working for Sky many years ago as head of field marketing, he's gone on to transform the business and brand that is Kumon, helping to turn the company into the UK's largest supplementary education provider. A valued client of Transmission for almost 10 years and an expert in how to use Sky AdSmart for targeted TV advertising. Please welcome Kumon Head of Brand and Marketing, Guy Flower.
Thank you, Lee. And thank you, everyone. Hello. I'm going to take the glasses off, put them down there. Right. Ooh, just moving on a bit. There I am. Marvellous. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Yes, thank you, Lee. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Matt. Fascinating stuff. Obviously, as a user of Sky AdSmart, spoiler alert, it's fascinating to sort of be reminded often about all the benefits, why we've gone there, how it's helped our brand in the meantime. So I'm very keen to share with you our story in relation to our brand on TV and in particular Sky AdSmart. So just a little bit of background on Kumon, if you're not aware of who we are. Kumon, it's the largest supplementary education provider in the world, offering maths and English study programs for children of all ages. For 60 years, Kumon study programs have developed children to learn for themselves, helping them to become self-learners and to achieve beyond expectations. That's our whole raison d'etre. Presently, over 3.6 million students study Kumon in more than 50 countries and regions around the world. We've actually just opened up a new centre in Pakistan. That's our 60th country, so it's growing. So Kumon operates a franchise model, and in the UK and Ireland, we currently have over 600 franchise centres and run by Kumon franchisees that we call instructors. And they're supported to run their local study centres in many ways by ourselves, the franchisor, in particular their marketing. We market nationally and provide a bespoke, localised marketing support service for all our instructors, allowing them to build on national brand advertising by marketing their centres locally, on top of we do nationally. Now, the majority of our national advertising is brand building and offer driven. Our major marketing strategy is to drive traffic to our website so users can search for and select their local study centre and then inquire directly with their local instructor via our online scheduling platform. This way, we keep as much visibility of the inquiries we've generated nationally as they proceed through a localised sales funnel. And this is very important for us to establish, for instance, cost per inquiry, return on investment, and analyse marketing performance. So before I proceed, I'll just share with you a little snapshot of where we've come from a TV perspective. So as a franchisor, our national marketing needs to hit two key objectives: drive traffic and inquiries, and motivate our network of franchisees to market themselves locally, taking a lead from the national branding. Now, as an emotional medium, building brand frame, TV has been an excellent channel for this, lifting the lid on Kumon and encouraging, even inspiring, our instructors to market their centres locally. Many aren't natural marketeers or even business people, they're educationists. So that lead is very, very important. And of all the channels out there, TV is ideal for our franchisee optics, offering a highly visible base for their local activity to build from. That emotion can be carried over to inspire them to do more themselves locally. This accommodation and sharing of the emotional is why TV in particular has been a successful channel for us in developing our national and indeed international brand awareness. Now, we, like many other businesses, have increasingly invested in digital marketing activities in recent years. Of course, it makes sense on numerous levels. TV, though, remains superior in several ways. It's full screen, not fighting for screen space at any one time with other advertising. So the brand has the viewer's full visual attention at the time, in the way that Steve alluded to in his statistics earlier on as well. Hearts and minds are more quickly and thoroughly won via a larger solar screen platform, allowing carefully and exquisitely created content to bring the brand to life in a way few other channels can match. And that's something we found year on year. And on top of that, we found that in the UK, a greater majority of our inquiries have stated television is where they are most likely to find advertising that they trust in comparison with the YouTubes and social media, for instance. Once again, some of Steve's stats there back in that too. We found that ourselves. So it's a preferred medium. Of course, tracking TV ad performance has traditionally been a bit more challenging to determine return on investment and establish channel performance. Traditionally, we've cross-checked air times with site visits and this sort of thing. But it's such a mass medium, of course, it's been very hard to really establish ROI and CPE. And increasingly, as we can do that with digital, that puts the pressure, I found, I don't know if you found the same, justifying TV spend in the same way as digital, increasingly. Now, as we've been able to target and track ad performance more effectively and control and influence our CPE and channel wastage, we've invested our focus and time increasingly on digital and social as a result. But, over time, we feel that content display, brand representation, and the visibility brand leadership for our franchisees has suffered as a result by moving away from that TV medium and moving away from the emotional in that respect. So how to combine the full brand display of TV with the targeting and lack of wastage afforded by digital channels? Sky AdSmart was the answer. It's allowed us to bring about an efficient blend of the TV and medium, obviously ideally best for the brand, and the more targeted profiling and performance measurements of digital and PPC. With Sky AdSmart, we've been able to build a target audience and only serve our advert when our audience is actually watching TV to that very audience. So no wasted views and ad spend, exactly like Steve showed us earlier. Using data, Sky AdSmart can target down to the individual household, overlaying postcode, demographic, life stage, parents of kids aged under 10, for instance, all that data to get to our perfect target audience. So no wastage on households that don't live near a Kumon study centre or who do not fit our target demographics. For our franchise recruitment advertising, when using Sky AdSmart, we run TV ads targeting our franchisee audience profile all across Sky's channels. And with Sky AdSmart, we only pay, as Steve has mentioned, there's 75% or more of the ad. We only pay once 75% or more of the ad has been viewed at normal speed. And I'm delighted to hear that that isn't changing as well. So this is marvellous. So we know that TV has a multiplier effect on our digital advertising. We've seen digital perform better when it's in combination, for instance, with Sky AdSmart. So as a result, it's so important for our campaigns to ensure that mix is there. Similarly, for our student recruitment campaigns, we run TV ads with Sky AdSmarts nationally, with the audience targeted by location, age, interests, and household income. Every single impression we know is our ideal target audience, so far more valuable to us than reaching, for example, 1.5 million people where 80% may not be our target audience in terms of age or postcode location. So it's a much more credible and reassuring way to spend your marketing budget in that respect. So this makes our support of our field teams and franchisees even more purposeful when we can run Sky AdSmart TV ads in priority postcode locations for them. So even though we run the campaigns nationally, we can be very specific in various regions or parts of the business that want to focus on key areas and key locations for growth. We can centrally support multiple regional campaigns using Sky AdSmart, typically achieving just under 1 million or so impressions over a 2-month campaign, all hyper-locally targeted. So performance over time demonstrates the activity is not just attracting more traffic for us, but the targeting of our activity means it's also the right traffic. Web visitors are then going on to inquire with us, and conversion rate has consistently improved. Very important. The content filmed and created with Transmission has allowed us to build an asset bank of excellent brand content, which can also be used throughout our marketing mix. So search, Google Ads, social, print, ambient, radio, email, not just for TV, of course. That's spread across the mix. And to reinforce the multiplier effect, brand awareness and consistency, as well as providing content that our franchisees can use for their own local promotions that they'd otherwise be unable to create themselves. So this content goes a long way for us, both at a national and local level across all channels. So the results, what have we been able to achieve using Sky AdSmart in the marketing mix? Well, I'm delighted to say that our average year-on-year inquiry growth since 2016 consistently has been that of 6% year-on-year. Over this time, we've recruited over 160 new instructors and generated over 200,000 new students for our centres nationally, growing the business and profitability of our national network of franchisees. Content creation with Transmission has enabled us to better demonstrate and portray our brand, bring it to life and bring it to people so they can see and understand what Kumon does in order to drive better quality of inquiries. Sky AdSmart has allowed us to target our brand to the right audience at the right times and increase our marketing effectiveness manyfold indeed. So here's to the future, and thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Guy. That's really interesting. So next up, we're going to have a little panel discussion, and we're going to ask you guys to get involved and ask some questions.
Samsung recently released an ad, and it showed a female running through the city late at night. And I run, and when the ad came on, first thing I said to my husband was, I don't know any other woman who would run through the middle of London late at night. That ad just is ridiculous. And he said to me yesterday the ad's actually been pulled because it got so many complaints from women saying that's really totally unrealistic, that would never happen. So my question is, for a brand like Samsung, who are so huge, A, how did that ad make it onto the big screen that someone at some point didn't pick that up? But B, I know you talked about good advertising, but I remember that was Samsung, so is there any value in that at all? In, you know, where they say any PR is good PR, along that kind of line.
So just to answer your last point first, although you remember Samsung, are you remembering them positively? Yeah. In that case, it's not going to, are you less likely or more likely to buy a Samsung product because it's less relevant to you? It's less good advertising. And I think one of the, and I was chatting to Tom earlier in the foyer outside, the amount of brands and the amount of big brands that miss a trick because they're not listening. The key to being relevant is listening to your audience. You've all got those social media platforms. They probably, I think, one of the other issues that a lot of brands have, particularly a brand like Samsung that has to get cleared through many layers of process, is brands get confused about the difference between what they want to say and what their audience want to hear. And really, if we're not being salmon, it's about what your audience want to hear, not what you want to say. So you might want to say, my product's great and I want to see a woman running through the streets of London, but your audience don't want to hear that. They want something that's actually a bit more realistic to them. So I think there's it's a bit of a, in my humble opinion, a bit of a mistake from Samsung, and they should have been listening to their audience a bit more. The information's there, they're just not listening to it.
Cool. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions? Tom?
I've got a question for Matt. It's about your upside down triangle.
I love the upside down triangle.
So one of the triggers, journey triggers, I think, or content triggers you had on there was trust. Mm-hmm. So I just wondered, how do you build trust in a 30-second TV ad?
So I think within the ad mix, it's a case of understanding where your customer journey is. So building trust might not necessarily be in a TV ad, and I will come back to that because it is possible. But whether you want to deliver that trust by knocking down those barriers to purchase. So it may be a case of, and as we had with Kumon, one of their big trust triggers was seeing people like them in the advertising, actually seeing the results of these children. So the first big project we did in 2016 was actually doing long-form case studies for the website. That's where it all started, was doing, I think we did 10 over the 18 months. but then actually using those real case studies in the TV ads. So there was a relevancy as you went through the ad funnel. As Steve was saying, you might see that child in the 30-second TV ad, but then once you click on the website, or once you see some of the ad displays, you would then see that child again, and you would start to see them. You'd see the longer form case study. So that although you can't do it all within 30 seconds, you can start to sow the seed of driving people through that funnel. So I'd say we can build trust from that perspective, but also we can build trust from where you are in that ad break. Obviously, being on TV with the perception of the barriers to entry in terms of the amount it costs to produce a TV campaign, the amount it costs to get on air, although, as Steve said, that's getting lower and lower, the perception is still there. So simply by being on broadcast, a lot of people have checked it. We know that Clearcast have checked it, or the Radio Centre have checked it for broadcast. For radio, it's already been through a lot of checks to get there. So people will often respond better to a messaging via TV or radio than they will if they just see it online or just get served an ad on Google. It seems to be a more trusted platform itself. Sorry, Steve, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'd just add, and you touched on it there, but if you can borrow from the content that you are surrounded by. So if you're on TV, it's trusted programming and content. It's programming that people have chosen to watch, so they like it anyway. So you're kind of borrowing that for the brand by putting yourself in the ad break. And that was all I was going to add, really. Thanks.
Great answer. Any other questions? Hey, could we
Pass the mic
Tom, would you
over.
mind passing the mic back? Thank you. Sure.
Hello, I'm John, Marketing Director from Samsung.
Boom, boom.
I've used AdSmart for a number of years. Big fan. One of the discussions I have with my agency is following on from all the rights I think we had in one of the presentation. I believe in right place. So let's say if we're getting to the right household, sometimes a bit of a difference between that and the right individual. So for instance, if I'm Paddy Power, I'm a lot happier about seeing my ad on Sky Sports than if I'm selling a cystitis product, let's say. So is there any additional wriggle room, or are we able to target individuals, or is household the limit of what we can do? And bear in mind that household is still great compared to broadcast, right?
Yeah, good question. It's very much, because of GDPR, it's household focused. To go any more granular than that would be potentially breaching GDPR rules. It's the information and data that we have, and whilst it is household based, there are a couple of things that we can do to help you if you've got a very male or female biased ad. One of those is to do a targeting by viewing passion, so we can build your audience by the viewing habits that they have. So a good example is a brand that before COVID times wanted to advertise to people. It was a European golf brake company who wanted to advertise to people who watched the Ryder Cup, but the Ryder Cup had been on 3 months before and it wasn't on Sky. So they were a bit baffled as to how they could reach the audience, and we said that's not a problem, because through the Sky set-top box we can recognise what people are watching, be that ITV, BBC, Netflix or Sky programming. And we can build an audience based on maybe the top 2 or 3 percentiles that have that viewing passion. So even though they watched the Ryder Cup on a different channel 3 months ago, we can serve an ad to that household knowing that they were a household that are into watching the Ryder Cup. And they were blown away by that. So that's a viewing passion targeting. So that's always worth remembering, that you can still add the geographic and other elements to it. The other thing we can do is we can bias your advertising towards male or female programming. So we know a lot from, the way we sell linear TV is to sell it by certain programming genre and cost. So by a cost per thousand for ABC or Men, you'll end up in certain programs because it's more optimal for us to deliver that in a certain program than a Housewives of Kids program, which would have a different profile. So you can bias your advertising campaign towards male or female biased programming. But generally, because we're delivering ads to a frequency of 6 to 9 times, you will reach the households and the people within those households, because a lot of people do watch telly together. It's not an isolated thing. And we do deliver the ads across between 6 in the morning and 12 o'clock at night on a profile at which people normally watch their viewing for TV. So you do get more peak because that's where people watch more TV. This is not about giving you slots in programs that we can't sell on linear, that other people aren't watching, that are in the middle of the night or have small ratings or small channels. This is about having the opportunity to advertise to the right audience at the right time. So it's household, but there are some more sort of clever things that we can add to it. The gentleman, sorry.
Hi. Could we get the mic over to you? Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Cheers. Yeah, I just want to follow up on the answer to the first question. How would you go about? What would you recommend are the best channels or tools or methods to understand and build that relationship with that audience member or your target audience?
I think with your target audience, again, with the kind of revolution within online advertising, people are a lot more happy to talk about what they want to say, but also within the ad space. So although kind of paying attention to social media channels will give you an idea of the kind of language people are using, but also within the ad space, and I'm sure we can do it with the display side of it, is we can actually start to see what sort of ads are working really well within the digital platform and then get them on TV pretty quickly. So whether that's the same content or we can use cues from that content, one of the things we do is pay attention to what sort of either text-based ads or video content or print content is working particularly well on social, and then use that to inform the next wave of the ad campaign. And we can normally turn that around. That's not a case of waiting 6 months. We can get that within a couple of weeks. So, for example, from Dee's point, if that response from that TV ad seems to dip, they can take that off air straight away. But what they could do is try that online first on their social media channels, get an idea, get some feedback, do that as a little test, and then roll it out before you take it further. The opportunity we've got to test our advertising before we release it to a fuller audience has never been better. It's never been easier to drop in a messaging or a little tweak here and there to make sure that we're listening to what our audience is saying before we take it out to that wider audience.
We're actually doing that these days anyway, with the range of material that we've got over the years, that asset bank, and thank you, Matt, for the term. I've been using it wildly ever since. During one of our normal campaigns, we will run, for instance, on social media, maybe 6 different ads, different messaging, different content, all part of it, and we can see and analyse the performance in real time. And ultimately, we know what works better to then feed in with what we were then maybe thinking we're putting on other channels like Sky AdSmart. So you're right, social itself is a very good testing ground. It's very responsive, very quick. Yeah. When you've got the content, you can respond even quicker.
Yeah, I think it's that ethos, and we've got the guys from Amaze in the room as well. It's something that they do particularly well, is that continual learning. We'll never get it exactly right. There's always something we can learn from the results from our campaign, results from our social campaign. We'll always deliver, always improve. And that feedback has never been easier to get than before, because we can get that through social channels very easily.
Thank you.
Sure.
If you don't mind, can I just hog it one more? Sorry, just AdSmart. Steve, you said you can track people if they've seen the advert and then they go onto Google and they find the website through Google. How do you track that? What do you use?
So it's end to end. So we by having a tag on the website on various pages of the website, we recognise the IP address of the customer or the potential customer when they come to the site, and we know the IP address of the customer by and large, because when you sign up to be on Sky or on Virgin, you have to sign up online in the household to get your service once it's been fitted. So we can recognise the IP address, and therefore we can service ads to the 5 or 6 digital products within the household that people choose to watch content on as well as the TV.
Okay, thank you. And how would you target decision makers? Because in your presentation you said decision makers.
Decision makers, from a business point of view, there's 2 ways. One is to use company's house data, so that's open to. It's not an exclusive data source that we have. We target people who are business owners within businesses of more than 50 employees or less than 50 employees. So there's a lot more in the second group than there is in the first. And we can still overlay geo and other social demographics on that. Or we can use Experian to target people who are business owners, maybe at a certain level, within a certain range of salary, within a certain area, but also within a sort of fine sector of business. So we have quite a lot of campaigns that want to target kind of white van man, for want of a better word, and we can do that again through Experian. So our partnership with Experian gives us access to their back end, which enables us to put in whatever the attributes that you know that are relevant to your audience, and then that will accumulate a recommendation on a profile list, on a priority list that says this is the best groups or types to target for you to be able to reach the audience you want to reach.
Thank you.
Okay.
Charles.
Okay, well, I had a very similar question of that one, so thank you very much.
I've got a similar answer.
But I will stick a little bit about how we target everybody, right? So it's just only for IP addresses. If you have a shared account with Google and some of the platforms you have in the sky, let's say YouTube, that can connect from the same platform that you have, there's no cookies involved at all, because IP address just tags the person for that location itself. So the person that was at home and now is searching in Google at home. If I search on my mobile, I have a different IP address, and that ad will not be seen at all. So
yeah, we don't manage to track back 100% of everybody. So there is some element of scaling, but we can also match back email address as well. From clients. So it really depends on the data that the client can share with us. If we're doing the sort of post-campaign about customers, then we use the multiple variants of what we know about the individuals in the household to be able to track back and scale it so that we can report back saying, we know this, we know we reached this many households in terms of the ad, and we know this many households went and became customers or went to the website. And it helps us build, because we also, once you've got the tag on the website, you can then recognize the profile of all of the visitors to the website, not just those that saw the ad. So it gives us the ability to profile the audience to help you for your next campaign, just in case we didn't quite target the right audience as much as we could have done. So most clients, as you said just now, most clients will start, and the beauty of AdSmart is you can start at $3,000. Which to get on TV for $3,000, most people are baffled as to how that can ever happen, because you imagine it's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds. So that barrier's gone, and it just means that you can then do it in a sort of environment and a budget that you're comfortable with to then scale it up. So the important thing is, how do you choose that really honed sort of sweet spot to target the first time, so that you can scale it up for the future campaigns once you've seen it work. But that's why we're kind of, it's a partnership, it's a journey we go on with you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. So in a creative perspective, how we developed all the ads, what kind of communication, what we're going to say, right? So we do, let's say we want to create a campaign with Lee and use the platform itself. We want to target, actually create some bit of brand awareness and target specific type of people that never seen us. We never been your client before, so we don't have previous data as Kumon has, to actually deliver all this data, right? Translate it to transmission to give, in this point, we're going to say that, in that point, in the funnel, we're going to say this, and in the second one, we're going to use a social media to say something else. So fine. So we don't have that. We're starting now from you guys. My question is, let's imagine that we're going to create 3 different ads. One for from awareness, one for middle funnel, and bottom funnel for conversion. Fine, but how Sky will support with data, not just us, but actually companies as transmission, to be part of this creative cycle and this creative idea to support us to create these ads, and then through the platform deliver to the right households in the right locations. But
so I think it's a question about kind of creative dynamics, about how you can target the creative itself. Within that journey, if I understood the question correctly.
Exactly. So I'm just asking if Sky also give data to us and to you guys to actually be part of the creative idea. So therefore, we can target different ads in different locations with different households. But the idea is if there is support of data from Sky to us to get this.
Well, in terms of data feedback, in terms of the amount of responses by particular creative type, I think the reports actually, Guy, you might be able to pitch in on this in terms of the kind of reports you get back and how they feed into the creative that you then serve, and whether that impacts whereabouts you see the effect happening within the funnel.
Yeah, I mean, the report, you can see from the targeting that you're choosing, like I said a bit earlier, that, for instance, parents with children aged under 10, you can see from the impressions that you're getting which audiences, which part of the profile are hitting. So you can certainly see where it's chiming best, even though ultimately you still want to have the spread that you want. But I think you're sort of more asking more up front. If you don't have it to begin with, where do you start? Where can I get that data so you've got a decent, as informed start as possible? Yeah,
sorry, I kind of dropped the mic when you said creative, but because there's experts on that. I think I'm thinking right that you have a customer base already. Okay, so what we would do in that instance is if you have more than 12,000 customer data set that you can share with us, that is a number that makes it statistically viable because we can track back to the Sky households within that 12,000. We can look at that customer base under a data share agreement and recognise what the profile of the audience is, be it age, affluence, area, etc., etc. And you can add that to the knowledge that you have from maybe your Google stats to be able to build the right targeting for the audience. So yeah, we can do the profiling up front as long as you've got 12,000 data set. And again, that's from £3,000. It's not a service we charge for because we want to make sure that if you're going to advertise with AdSmart, you do it as well as you can. So yeah, sorry, we got there eventually.
Yep, good. Yeah, thank you very much.
Fantastic. Karen.
Hi. What's Sky's policy for serving competitive ads within the same programming?
So AdSmart is under exactly the same restriction as any normal linear campaign. So you won't see 2 car ads in the same break. You won't see 2 gambling ads in the same break. So there's a clashing code within each brand and every sector. So it's the same as normal broadcast quality.
Okay, but in the same programming, presumably, not necessarily in the same break.
It's in the same break. So there's a clashing code for the break, but not for the program.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Helen?
Just following on from one or two previous questions, really. So when it comes to measurement, did I see one of the things you can do is track from seeing an ad to buying packaged goods, FMCG type stuff in supermarkets, boots, that kind of thing? If so, how do the mechanics of that work?
Yeah, so I'll draw on the example, and we've got multiple partners we work with, but for Sainsbury's customers and Argos customers, we work with Nectar, and Nectar know the address of their loyalty card holders, and they also know the basket of products that they buy from Sainsbury's on a regular basis. So if you had a brand that you wanted to target in a particular sector, we can ask Nectar to draw an audience that is exactly the buyers that they know of that product or that sector of product or off that shelf, or even if the brand is big enough, the specific buyers of a competitive brand. And then they will share with us that data set. We'll match that to the households that we know we can serve to AdSmart, and we'll give you a campaign based on that universe to then run the campaign. The minimum budget for that is 50 grand, so it is a step on from the normal 3 grand. But if you're in that, a multiple retailer like Sainsbury's across the country, or even just part of the country, 50 grand is a decent level of support. It gives you a big tick in the box with the retailers to be able to say, we're advertising in your store. You have to have your product distributed in Sainsbury's or Tesco's if we work with dunnhumby. But then the beauty of the spending that 50 grand is that you get a report back from Nectar showing you how you've shifted people from buying the competitor set to your brand across the campaign period. So they're generally at the minimum of 4-week campaign. You can do it for a 30 grand campaign, but you don't get the report. So it's kind of always worth spending 50 grand. So that's how it works in the same with kind of Experian in the healthcare sector and dunnhumby for Tesco's.
I think Helen wants to ask a question just behind you, John.
Sorry, Helen, can I just do my second one first? And this is more kind of an interpretation thing. So when we were talking a moment ago about going through a funnel and guiding 3 people through 3 stages and so on, I'm also right in thinking that there's, unlike linear, you can plan this household by household. So if you can afford 4 impressions of the awareness stage and then you think there's 3 for the next stage and 3, you can do it so that that household sees your 3 different ads in an ABC order to kind of guide them through, whereas I'm guessing in linear that's way beyond
Yeah, absolutely.
linear capabilities, right?
Absolutely, yes. So you can serve multiple copy so that the audience sees, if you've got a 3-part story, you serve the first ad knowing that once that household has seen the first ad, the next time you have the opportunity to serve the ad, you'll serve the second ad. And then once they've seen that, then you'll serve the third. So you can tell the story, you can rotate, but also you can use different copy in different areas. So you can just change the dialect and make it more relevant as well. So loads of different things that you can do that you just couldn't do on linear.
Sorry, Steve, it's another one for you.
That's all right.
You're going to get bored, aren't you? I'm agency side, so for me that trackability is really, really important. But a lot of the campaigns we get involved in are behaviour change.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering if you've been involved at any point in actually tracking that measure of impact on behaviour, where there's it's not about a click to a website, it's not about purchasing a product, but it's about impacting the way that people actually behave.
Yeah, I think that's more the kind of brand evaluation, where I showed that funnel of the 3 different levels of reporting. Brand evaluation is probably more relevant in that respect. And that does tend to be for campaigns that are spending 100 grand plus. And you get a full-on report that not just assesses the message, is it getting right through to the right audience, and there's always a control group as well. So there's the exposed audience versus the non-exposed audience. So we can have a very clear and statistically viable level of understanding of what people are doing in terms of changing their behaviour. Is the message getting through? Are they more likely to become customers? And you can run that on different regionality as well. So, and that's been around a lot longer, but we work with all the main independent research companies like BDCR for those kind of pieces of research.
Fantastic. Unless anyone has any other big questions.
Thanks very much. So I have 2 questions, if I may. One is for Steve. Just wondering if you have got some indication of the success of targeting business customers within their own home, and whether there is a sense that that is successful in the business environment, or if that is indeed intrusive to their own personal space. That's the first question. And then the second question is to the panel. Generally, I just wondered if you could give us an indication from your professional, personal viewpoint of what you find in terms of brand advertising you have been most impressed with, or you think has had the most success factor, not necessarily from your own brands or companies that you've worked with, but on a more kind of big scale. Which are the advertising campaigns that you feel have been really remarkable, both in Sky, which ones have had the most success back into the bottom line of your customers, but more generally as well?
Okay, so to take the business question, we can share with you the list of the list of ads that target businesses, so that you can see the breadth of the audiences. When we work with the likes of Crowdcube, who target businesses who want to be raising funds, they do one campaign, and when they've got the businesses that they want to raise funds with, then they target people who are high net worth individuals. So there's 2 ways of doing stuff. So we work with loads of businesses. Possibly one of the best examples we have is we do an AdSmart campaign. Funnily enough, why wouldn't you? So we target people who are business owners in their own home around the programs they've chosen to watch, and say, "Did you realise this is what you can do on telly?" And they contact us either via the website, or very rarely by phone, or by email, and they say, "I saw the AdSmart ad. How does that work?" And we go, "Well, it works because you're a business owner. Anybody else on your street who watched the same program didn't see the ad because they're not a business owner. You've responded. What else do you need to know?" It kind of sells itself. So we don't tend to take that out to market as the best example, because people go, "Yeah, but that's your own campaign." But we do that on a regular basis. But it helps us work with businesses like Microsoft, right through to your local lawyer in Sevenoaks and everything else in between. So we can share with you a list of the brands and an example of the ads. And there's also a number of case studies. To answer your second question, if I may, one of the best examples that we have was from McLaren. So most people would think, how on earth are you going to have McLaren advertising on telly? It's a massive wastage of 99% of their budget. And they literally spent 30 grand the first time and then scaled up after that because it worked. And if you go onto the AdSmart website and you look up the McLaren ad, you'll see the marketing director say, we were blown away. People just came into the store to buy a McLaren. And they kind of didn't expect that. They thought it might be a branding thing. It might be, it's a very competitive market. It's a very expensive product and car, but people were literally seeing the ad. And because it was a relevant ad to the right audience, it worked. We've got creative agencies who've run ads on TV on AdSmart, targeting businesses in their area that they sort of work with. And their opening line on the ad is, "Hello, Mr. Business Owner." Now, you're not going to ignore that if you're a business owner and you're watching telly, because they're talking directly to you. And then you've got 28 seconds to tell you the rest of the story of what they do. So it's all about relevancy, and those are great examples of things that work well. There you go. I've stolen the light.
Fantastic.
From my second answer.
Thank you for the question. Thanks, Steve. I suppose from a professional experience perspective, and particularly in relation to TV2, it's more about the successful campaigns is more about consistency and the ability to keep on that channel, keep a similar message going on a regular basis for as long a time as period. We've found that at Koeman, of course, where we have had longer running campaigns, particularly on TV, with a relatively consistent message, not too much chopping and changing over time, gradually that does help, particularly when you've got the franchisee demographic on board, where you're trying to get messaging over to them. It's those convincer channels whereby it just beds in, and that fundamentally feeds everything else you're doing. So I'm more on the case of consistent marketing messages that are there and there for a long time, ultimately, fundamentally are the most successful because they're feeding everything and they're ultimately making a bigger impact, depending on the message itself. But yeah. Matt?
Fantastic. Good answer. That wraps up the first part of our event today, guys. Thank you to our panel, Steve, Matt and Guy. Appreciated. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much.